Hi there, everybody. Welcome to episode 196 of the Cloud-Based Mayhem. Can you believe it? We're almost 10 years strong here. Pretty amazing. Some fun things are happening in the paragliding world. The Chablais hike and fly just went down. Tanguy Renaud Good gave Kriegel a heck of a run for his money, but Kriegel got him in the end, as he does. And the Worlds are going on, and the Red Bull X Alps is about to start. I'm heading over there in a week to run around with those guys and do some reporting for the fans. It should be pretty fun. I'm really looking forward to that. Getting away from this house build. But yeah, 196. We're going to be hopefully doing another book that'll be based on the second 100 shows. And that's coming right up. I'll have to get to work on another book. My guest today is Andrey Kuznetsov. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, Andrey, I apologize. Andrey is the owner of AirQuest Paragliding out in New England. He's obviously not from New England with that name, but he's been over here for a while, and he was a long-time national member of the skydiving team. He has a whole bunch of world records, and he, including the Genius record, which is part of the 100-way canopy formation, and he was a long-time reserve test pilot. So AirQuest does a lot of repacks, and he reached out to me after the show about the reserve. Well, reserve toss went right, but after the glider had a line failure, maybe or maybe not, we don't know, but the show we did a few weeks back, and he had some thoughts on that, had a lot of thoughts on repacks and reserves and how to throw them, and the transition from skydiving to paragliding. He never even flew a sea glider. He flew a 200K flight on a B in Texas just a couple years into his flying in 2012, and just skipped the whole C altogether, went straight to a D because it was too slow compared to skydiving. So rather different progression, and a lot of really interesting things came out of his history in skydiving and transition into flying. So he found a lot of it pretty straightforward, and I don't know a ton about skydiving, so I found all that really fascinating, and I think you will too. So enjoy this talk with Andrey about reserves and records and doing some cool flights back east to the beach and taking care of your kit. Cheers. Andrey, welcome to the Cloud-Based Mayhem. Thanks for reaching out and telling me about your history a bit. We're going to be talking a lot about skydiving and your canopy experience and the crossover into paragliding and your company. And specifically, we're going to talk, sounds like, a lot about reserves and the importance of packing correctly, as you're seeing a lot of really bad packing. So welcome to the show, and thanks for sharing your time with us.
Hi, Gavin. Thank you for invitation. I'm happy to share my experience with skydiving and with paragliding as well. How you said, I'm expert in reserve parachutes, which is our part of very important gear.
Yeah, you're a reserve. You were a reserve test pilot in skydiving. What does that mean? I don't even know. What does that look like?
It was very interesting part of my career. I was national team, skydiving national team for many years, and we had coordination with military air team, and they asked us to test Ragawa type reserve for skydiving because they use it for the military stuff. And they this day it was Ragawa reserve parachute for skydiver. It's not exist anymore, but it was very interesting. It was made 1981. It's called PZ81, and it's Ragawa type. You can control your landing if you need to, and we test the stuff. It was very interesting experience.
Huh. And then were you doing a lot of, testing on prototypes and that kind of thing as the years went by?
It was not the prototype, and this year this reserve was already exists for 9 years, and they looking for the modified stuff, make it bigger because you can load it heavy stuff, and we try to give our expertise if it's possible or not, because the bulky stuff it's not safe, and if you throw reserve in the free fall, it can kill you if it's too big or not too reserve has not correct opening precision.
Yeah, sure. Way more critical when you're at terminal.
Yes, for sure. I saw one
How many
reserve.
jumps?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, with one reserve. How many jumps do you have?
I have over 4,000 jumps.
Was that a 4?
4,000, yeah.
4,000. Wow. And how much would that cost to do 4,000 jumps?
Actually, in my country, it was for free.
Wow, really?
Long
Because you're on the national team.
Yes, and before when I started, it was it's very similar system like in US. You have for the teenager. I started when I was 15 years old. And it was free for us. For the new teenager, you go to the club and they give you everything for free, included food. You can spend weeks in the camp and just practice. The idea was behind very smart, run by government, because all young generation after 18, they have to go to the army or air force and make a service, right? And if government spent money before that, you're already ready for the army, for the air forces. This was the idea behind.
Sure. And how did you start getting into, I would assume with the national team, you're doing when you're flying with 100 other people and you're doing formations and acrobatics and that kind of thing. Is that just the natural progression, make it more exciting?
Yeah, I was crazy about when I went to drop zone almost every my day, doesn't matter if it's rainy or it's cloudy, I went to the drop zone and just to see opportunity to make a jump every day. And I was one of the skydiver who made the more jump in the year. And after that, I saw future for the skydiving, and I was decided jump to the canopy formation discipline because it's very interesting, very exciting, and I was dreaming about actually. And after that, I was in the local team. Then we went couple of camps. The guys from the big team saw me. They invite me to jump to another camp, and finally, I am in national team.
And what national team was it? You forgive me for my lack of, I can't really tell the difference between the various Baltic languages. So are you Russian?
Yes, I am.
And so were you in Moscow or where were you training?
The team was around the Moscow, yeah. We were training around the Moscow. But the country is huge, and a coach collect all good guys from the whole country. Country is huge, and we have selection who can pass the selection, jump to the next level, and after that they see the best of the best pilot will go to the final team before every championship. How it was run, and after that we made the team and we start training for that.
And it sounds like you were pretty crazy about it. So how many years were you super involved in skydiving? I mean, was this your job?
Yes, it was my full-time job.
Wow. That'd be a fun full-time job.
I know, but when you're young, you don't have family, you don't have responsibility. It's good, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So I don't, you do hear about accidents in skydiving. I understand that, the risk goes up quite a bit when you start flying big formations just because of the speed, and mid-airs can be something. But how would you, now that you're flying a lot and you're paragliding a lot and more involved in free flight and that under that canopy, under a paraglider, how would you compare the risk of the two in terms of potential and accidents? And, is it similar or is it way different?
It's different because skydiving, the higher altitude you have, the more time for cutaway you have. You can fix the problem. The only way to fix problem in skydiving, special in canopy formation discipline, it's cutaway. You just push the button and your main glider fly away, and you use your reserve. When you jump out on the side of the problem. Usually, if you can take a look on the pictures, you will see how the canopy formation wrap is. It's like kind of several gliders messed up very fast, and every skydiver in my team had like at least 2 hook knife, at least, because you never know which hand will be blocked, by line. You have to cut this out. I carry 3 knives because 1 knife helped me to cut the fabric if I need it. If like some canopy on your teammate canopy wrap around your body, you don't have space for throw your reserve. You have to cut the fabric and throw your reserve through the hole. It's the only way to survive.
Wow, that sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, I mean, we had this in the past. This is why, on our last record when we made in Florida, when we made 100 wave formation, every skydiver had at least 2 hook knife, at least. Because we were from the 14 countries. We collect experience from all world.
Imagine that's, and the use of a hook knife is certainly recommended in our sport, but it's not ubiquitous, is it? There's a lot of pilots that don't have one.
Exactly. It's very bad because special for acro pilot, you must.
Yeah.
You must.
I think the acro pilots are more switched on to that because they're, they throw the reserve more and their potential, especially if they're working on the infinite, the potential for getting gift wrapped it goes way up. There's been a couple of scary videos that have come out this year. Kevin Phillip over in Organia, and I just had on the show. We haven't released it yet, but Philip Zellner had a very similar incident where he got gift wrapped working on the Infinity. He was actually coming out of it and screwed it up and got gift wrapped, and whoa, you start going down real fast.
Exactly, freefall. This is why it's different between skydiving and paragliding. If you have altitude, you have time to fix it.
Yep.
If you don't have altitude, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And paragliding, it's not freefall. You have more time for fix your glider. This is why my instructor told me when I start 2009 first lesson in paragliding, he told me, if you survive first several months, you're okay. Because he know after because skydiver had a different reaction on the glider. You have to react faster than paragliding. Paragliding, you need a little bit slower reaction. You don't have to be so crazy fast. And in skydiving, you must. And this is why if you not kill your glider in the first several months, you're okay. You will fly.
Really?
Yeah, it's exactly what, because you need a much faster reaction to turn your glider if you need to.
Do you feel like having the background in skydiving really helped you progress faster than normal?
For sure,
when you came over to paragliding, just because of your canopy experience and your maybe, what other experience would be very valuable there?
It's approach for the landing approach. You can see the different. You can see the landing options. You can see the dangers on the landing. It's like I automatically see the lines, automatically see the where I can land, where I cannot land. It's like it helped me a lot with my final approach, and you can you have more observed information around. Bianca always happy to see when I say, "Oh, birds here, let's go this way," because your eye 360 around. You have to see all small detail. I mean, the same for paragliding, the same, very similar for skydiving as well.
Interesting. So it's a very observational, heavy sport.
Correct.
Yeah, it's interesting because it wouldn't strike me as that. And is that because of flying in formations with all the other pilots?
Specific
You're
for
just really keeping track of everybody else?
Yes, exactly, for specific canopy formation, yeah.
Now, is this true too? I've heard of, when when you're in free fall, so you haven't released your canopy and you're doing all the formations, that the mid-airs can often be fatal in the air because of the speeds. Is that something that's very rare, or does that happen every once in a
Not
while?
really. Usually for the canopy formation discipline, you have only 2-3 second delay. You don't have real free fall. You throw your main glider like after, depends where you are in the position and your team. Like for example, I was number one who throw a parachute because every other 3 pilots next to me, they saw when I throw, they open it immediately. And we, after like 2-3 second free fall, we already have formation. It's like 4 diamond, we already have it. When you open it, we just...
I mean, you get out of the plane and you're together that fast?
No, yeah, we just jump out 3 or 4 people at the same time from the plane, and we like for example, I was number one who opened the parachute, the first one, and another guy saw me. He throw his glider, open up, and like 3 or other, and we have like steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we connected to each other. And this is because like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was the second started when first pilot jumped out of the plane. This is our team, and we had like 8-way team formation. It's like, and the last guys who touched the formation, second stopped. This is how we made several world records, like 26, 24 seconds. For the 4 all guys build the formation. This every every second it's count. You have to be like very precisely done what you're doing. You have to know all position, your body position next to your pilot, because sometimes you can fly to his direction to help to minimize this time.
And are those skydiving training centers, where you get in the tube and you can practice all that? Is that really important?
It's for different discipline. It's important, but it's not for us because we do all training with our canopy when parachute is open.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. So, got to ask you some Hollywood stuff before we move on to the importance of just some fun stuff. But I just saw that my neighbor down in Twin, Miles Dasher, and John, I forget his last name, but they're part of the Red Bull Air Force, and they did a bunch of training with Tom Cruise for the latest Mission Impossible, where he's jumping off a bike and base jumping. It looks like quite a cool stunt, but there's been Point Break, of course, originally, the original surf film with Patrick Swayze, and they're jumping out of a plane without a reserve. Is this just complete horse shit, or is that possible?
It's possible. It's just it's possible. We just create a lot of risk because you the more professional you are, you have more control on it. And I don't know, you probably saw a lot of video and record when guys landing without open parachute. The free fall and big net on the ground.
Yes.
The problem is, you have to fly directly to this net, and I know it's the first guys who landed on the empty boxes. Remember?
The boxes.
It was more crazy, but
that's crazy.
It is, but people try to make a show, for no matter what, even with the high risk, but still.
My favorite of those guys are the Frenchies. I think they call themselves the Frenchies, but they're the ones that do all the music, and they're always doing the craziest stunts. They had one where they're driving across a bridge down in southern France, and they all jump off the top of a bus. They're driving across the bridge on a bus, and they jump off and wingsuit. It's just so fantastic. Did you get into base jumping quite a bit too, or was it just skydiving?
No, this is the reason why I don't jump on base jump, because from my feeling, the more altitude I have, the more safe I am.
Yeah.
Because base jump, I have a lot of friends who is base jumper, and several already passed away because of that crazy experience. And the one friend told me the less altitude they have, it's them giving more adrenaline.
Yeah.
And finally, they move.
The more you reduce the margin, the more exciting it is. That's just a recipe for
I know,
disaster.
exactly. And in the end, they jump from 50, 60 meters. It's kind of limited,
Yeah, I mean, and that's why wingsuiting has the numbers that it does, and now in more and more speed flying is apparently the numbers are getting pretty similar, and I don't know if that's because there's more people doing it, but it's in wingsuiting, it's the closer you are to the terrain, the more exciting it is, and it's just man, it doesn't take much to screw it up. I have not done it. That's just from talking to my friends who do, but they all have there's a lot of RIPs in that community, which
Believe
is
me, I had so many landing like that very close because when you're young, you can screw it on the landing and make a swoop on the ground just very low and just like horizontal flights and all that. It's still, how many times my butt touched the ground faster than I want.
yeah, yeah.
It's
We aren't as resilient as we start to get older and lose our hair too, are we? We
exactly.
have to be a little more careful about that kind of stuff. We don't bounce quite as well. Um, okay, let's switch to the reason you said, hey, I'd really like to get on the show is really your business side of things. You fix gliders, which we can talk about, but it's mostly the repacking. And you were saying before we started recording that you see a lot of mistakes in repacks. That was surprising to me. I would expect some, but you're seeing a lot. Let's go through. And this is an audio podcast, so this is going to challenge being able to articulate this without showing it. But what are the steps, or what are the things that people are missing? And can you take us through a proper repack?
Yes, how I said, I saw like usually my business running like last 5 years for the reserve repacking and how you said, I started trimming and glider fixing and other stuff with the canopy. The reserve issue most of the time is the glider, the pilot don't know how to install correctly. Usually they like flip the reserve upside down and all lines. If you throw reserve, all lines will be on your hands. It's one problem. Another issue is if the handles connect not properly to the internal container. Like the more dangerous pilot is PPG guys, power motor. They send me reserve with the outer container. When I open the outer container, I saw like, guys, it's crazy. Sometimes they connect. I like last couple of months ago, I got the reserve from one pilot in Minnesota, I think. Bridles was connect to the. It was Ragawa reserve, and bridles was connect to the bridge between risers. If
Wait, what?
handles was connect to the bridge between risers.
Holy shit!
And I said, man, who connected? He said, it's my instructor. I said, what is his name? Give me please his name. I want to talk with him. Of course, he didn't, but I said, man, it's very, I make a pictures and I post it on Facebook just to like share this information, how it was on the reserve. If you throw reserve and connect it to your bridge between risers on the Yoragawa, it will not open. No. If it's so, it's like line will go around the handles, around like it will not open. For sure.
Holy cow! Jeez.
It's just one of the last example, but so other small issues is like all the time. They the second mistake, people when I pack the reserve, I left the loops on the internal container just a little bit, just like 2-3 centimeters maybe maximum. I saw the reserve when they sent it me for repacking. It's like 20 centimeters.
No, wait,
loop inside the final loop inside the container. When you throw, yes, you will have the big loop sticking out. If it's not installed properly, it will create a delay for sure. And plus, this loop can hook some other lines and lock.
So you need that loop to be short.
Yeah, the shorter the better. It's kind of not super short because when you throw, you can leave this inside your harnesses, but you need a little bit, just 2-3 centimeters maximum.
Okay.
Because and also during the repacking, I'm always add several other technique which I found from my experience from my skydiving and repacking. Add special tricks which is help open reserve faster. Like for example, I make a loop inside the reserve just to when you reserve get the air a little bit. If lines they're together, they give you like half second, delay. Because for us, every second it's count, right? We have to be and I made this more and more efficient to open it, more faster.
Well, can you explain that in a way that
it's probably better? I will send you
something we need to put
I will
in the
send
show
you
notes?
pictures. Maybe it's step by step how it's, and you can share it because sometimes it's hard to explain what does it mean, but you have to show the step by step. It's help to people to see how much different for the each for the opening.
Okay, well we'll put that in the show notes so everybody can check that out. What are you seeing in different deployment times between the various reserves? Some, I mean, because some matters if it's a little bit. I had a reserve throw really, really low here training for the last X Alps, and it was a steerable square, and boy, it came out fast. It was quite nice. It was lucky that it did because I threw really low. I was basically on the ground.
And my question, doesn't this steerable reserve help you?
Oh, no. In that case, not at all. No, it would have been impossible. I'm just saying that's what I threw. And what I was impressed by was that it opened very fast, which I needed it to. It was not good. And so I was very thankful that it opened really fast. I'm just wondering if you've seen much difference between the octagon or a round or a square.
Technically, it doesn't matter much. It's it's how fresh you're repacking. Because it's because your fabric compress sit in the container, right? And for 12 months at least. You can imagine, right? If you compress your pillow, if you sleep on the pillow and you compress it will be smaller and smaller, and to back to the same size, you need time. This is what we're losing during the throw reserve, right? This is time. And if it's fresh repacking, it's opening faster. Everyone knows about it. But people are lazy to think about it because it's I probably will not use it, but you never know. Right?
That's a bad.
It's a lot of conversation. For example, you repacked my reserve years ago, but I didn't fly. I will not repack this season. I said, listen, it doesn't matter. It sits in the small container. It doesn't matter if you use it or you don't. You have to repack it. It gives you more chance to open it. I mean, faster.
And Andrey, not to promote laziness whatsoever, but when I watch your videos of repacking, you're going to get it way better than I can just because you're doing it over and over and over again. I have been told that, the perfect little folds and really getting it perfect is not really that important. True or false?
It's not important. It can be done by manual, but the more important, it keep all lines straight. This is which creative issue. If your line is messed up, it can be open not symmetrical. It's one problem, but another is can grab another line and make a knot or something like that. It's possibility. But this is why for the new pilots, I'm not recommended to buy steerable reserve or Ragala type or square steerable reserve. You don't need it. This complicity. It's good to have if you for example, you and me, we fly AMP. We have two reserves in the harness, right? And we have a choice. Which one? For example, my main reserve is square, and my steerable reserve is my backup, my Rogala. It's just in case, because if you have altitude, you can choose your steerable reserve and kill your glider. Because if you don't disable your glider, it doesn't matter which reserve you have. It doesn't help you much. Your glider drag you. It even sometimes creates more issue, more problem.
Yeah.
And this is why the low altitude, I will throw my square reserve because it's less complicity. And it will be guaranteed to open faster than steerable.
I think that's important. I threw my reserve a steerable down in Colombia a few years back in just a day right before a comp. And I had to wait quite a while to throw it because I was trying to drift over a little tiny field. And I thought, man, if I could throw this and then stick it into that field with my steerable, that'd be really sexy. And I ended up landing in the field, but the steerable was a joke. I did not realize how long it takes to make all that happen. You know, by the time I had disabled my glider and had it all in my lap, I was on the ground.
Exactly.
And luckily the wind was I landed in the little field and packed that reserve up and relaunched and flew back to home because I had the other reserve. And so it was kind of brilliant how it all worked out. But I had heard this, that it takes a long time to activate the steering, side of things when you have a steerable, but it really takes a long time. It takes quite a while. So I have the same thing. I fly with a steerable. I actually fly with my steerable on my primary hand, and so maybe I should reverse that. That's interesting. You fly it the other way around, but I'm the same way. Now I would think about it. I would choose, instantly I go right hand, not instantly I go left hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I don't want to skip something. You said people put it in backwards or upside down lines. Talk about that.
It's very common mistakes because if I think the guys from England, they made very nice video with the testing.
Matt Wilkes.
Yeah, it's like they explain very clear. If you throw your reserve with two motion, front and back, you align on your hands and it's stuck. It's the same when you throw a reserve, and this is why most of the harness now they sell on container, internal container, because they mark it like advanced. They always have the marker where the face on the container should be met face on the harness, right? They're like two dots, they have to match. And this is like good idea because otherwise people flip and line up and give you less slippery, right? You put with the more harder to throw. And plus your
lines down,
and all nuts, everything should be on the bottom of the harness. And because nothing should be on the way. Sometimes people just put the all nuts on the top of the reserve. When you throw, you throw out for the harness with all nuts, with everything on the top of the container. This is how creative the issue.
Okay, and I think it's really important, the other thing you said, because when I learned how to paraglide, you pull it forward and you huck it back, and that's totally changed now. That's not correct, and I think a lot of people still have that in their minds, and it's
they have to
because it's this you have this thing where you're pulling it out and then you're hucking it, but it's just one fluid motion, isn't it?
Exactly.
You grab and huck it.
Exactly, and you have to practice on your own harness because for example, one harness has container with a 25-degree flip. For example, Voodoo Valley has it, and you throw just on the back. Sometimes doesn't help, because special for tiny girls, they don't have muscles on the on the right hand, for example, right? They have to follow the technique, how they recommend it. Exactly, in practice, you have to practice. Ozone harness has with the front mount container has 3 pins. It's creating some delay with the opening, what I saw, but you have to practice. You have to build your muscle for this.
We were just recording a show. Again, this one hasn't out yet, but I had Nick Reese and Russ Ogden on the show yesterday, and we were just talking about spring tune-up things, and we got into reserves, and we were talking about auto rotation, which Russ hates that term, auto rotation, because there's nothing auto about it. You have done this.
Yep.
This is manual rotation. It's your fault. You've gotten into the auto rotation, and you can get yourself out of it. It's not an automatic throw. It's get out of the auto rotation. But if you have to throw, obviously, if there's doubt, you have to throw. And what he was talking about, what they're finding is if you're in that kind of situation where there's potentially a lot of G-force, when you're and I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this because I had never heard this. This sounds really scary, but he was talking about how important it is to have that reflex of where the handle is. You do it every time you leave the hill, down, you follow this, and Theo de Blick talks about this all the time, just that needs to be totally automatic where that handle is, because if you're in a cascading situation, you may not be in a situation where you can look, or he was talking about that if you're in really heavy G-force situation, he said hands can go down, and if you miss the handle, your hand gets buried down, and the G-force holds it so hard that you don't have the strength to get back to your handle, and that is really spooky. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I do. And also another issue, it can be done too. Like if you right hand and you reserve on your right side, with the rotation, your hand can be locked by risers, right?
Okay.
And you cannot pull your right hands down.
Get your hand out.
Yeah. In this case, you have to use it your left hands. This is why pilots who have a frontal, like a backup container, which is good idea. Because you can reach the handles or left or right hands on your frontal, right on your front mount container, which helps. Or on advanced harness, you can access for the both reserve from the left and from the right side as well. It helps.
I was just thinking about this when I threw my reserve. I was on light kit. I was doing a bivy expedition. I was doing a bunch of training, and I was very heavy, and I was also on my light kit. So I had, I had oxygen and all my camping stuff, and it was a front mount, and I'm trying to visualize. I think I just grabbed it and hucked it. But are you supposed to go around the riser and huck it from the outside, or can you just go right straight
usually
to it?
It should be go around the riser, because if you throw from here, you will go through your risers, right?
Through the lines.
Through the lines, through your inside. You have to go out of the riser.
I must have done that because I had a clean deployment, but I was just I remember thinking about that a lot when I got my front mount. It was something we're kind of unfamiliar with. We don't think about too much. Your point that you've got to practice this stuff. This is an interesting thing, because these days, as you start to get better in this sport, we start flying a lot of different gear, don't we? We have our bivy kit, we have our hike and fly kit, we have our cross country kit, we have our racing kit, we have our acro kit. I mean, I have 5 different harnesses, maybe 6. And this is, when I had an issue training acro over the desert, switching back to my acro gear that I've talked about many times on the show. It was hysterical if it wasn't so dangerous, but that muscle memory wasn't there with the acro harness. I've been flying my hike and fly kit, which only has 1 reserve. My first reserve wasn't attached through it. Whoa, my gosh, look at that. And so, but I briefly, for the very briefest time, forgot that I had a second reserve. So that wasting a second or two meant I hit the ground without the second one deploying. I threw the second one, but I saw it roll out, and then I hit the ground. And luckily it was okay. I had enough of my wing flying over my head, and it was in parachutal and not, resurging or something or restarting. So there was a lot of things there that went really my way, but that muscle memory wasn't there with the acro kit. And it could have been lethal. Yeah.
Exactly. You have to practice this. You have to know your gear for sure, especially if you have several kits, like you said. And I have 2. I have one light one, and I have competition one. And I like light one because in New England we have to hike to the mountain almost every time. We don't have option with gondola or with the lift because it's not available in our area. But we have to hike. This is why I don't want to hike with my competition gear.
So how often, you said the reserves definitely open faster if they've been freshly packed, and then they get, Russ was even talking about that they get kind of a static energy.
Correct.
Is that static energy? Is that right?
Yeah, because like special new fabric, they are synthetic now. They can live now for 15-20 years. The old reserve, they stay for 10 years only because they use a different type of fabric. Now the new one, and of course this is the nylon or some other type of fabric, they're synthetic. They're creative some electrical static, right? And when I refresh the reserve, my usual process is open reserve, give a brief like for 12, 24 hours, just to be, because a fabric has a memory. You have to release this and pack in a little bit different shape, because if you found the same shape, it kind of after couple of years, it will be creative. Some even fabric is soft. It's still, when you bend it in the same place several times, it can be place with will damage. Will have the damage. It's possibility. It's not like will be like 100%, but it will be stress point for the reserve.
So it sounds like regardless of the hours you're flying or your currency or anything kind of thing, the minimum is once a year, or is that not even enough?
When I was in the national team, we repack every month.
Every month?
Every month.
No, but that's skydiving. What would you do?
For paragliding, I will recommend it at least every 6 months.
Every 6 months. Regardless if you're flying the kit or not.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't matter, really.
But still, it's fresh repacking. It's give you, and plus, when you're hiking up and fly, you sit on the harness. Your reserve, it's sit inside the harness as well, and make some like kind of follow the shape of the harness. It can change configuration inside. It's not big deal, but still, it's can be an issue for opening.
Yeah, I wonder how much resistance there is to this. It's interesting, isn't it? What we're willing to spend money on in the sport and where we're willing to shave money just in some ways makes no sense whatsoever. It's a reserve. It's a pretty important piece of your kit.
Exactly.
It's like flying without an inReach. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Correct. And people still, I don't need it. Square reserve expensive. I will buy the round one. But round has some like kind of not stable landing. It's kind of slow delay and old design already. Why you have to buy old design? Because it's cheaper. You buy the cheap insurance for yourself.
That's not where we save money.
Exactly. You save $100, but so what?
You've broken an ankle.
Exactly. You will pay more later. But it's no point.
I'm sure many people who are listening today, I had this thing, I'll never have to throw my reserve. And for years, and I was flying in Sun Valley and really, strong air and a lot of hours and a lot of comps and the X Alps and the whole thing. And never, I must be a really good pilot. And then, I've thrown 3 times now in combat and not, in other words, not over the water, not training acro. I've done several of those now too, but those are, these were in situations where I needed my reserve. And I can tell you that, even on a reserve that is, 20% over the weight rate, all the things that they recommend, you can come down pretty darn fast.
Yes.
And depending on the terrain you're coming into, flat, rocky, cement, top of a roof versus a nice slope with grass like you have in the Alps, it's really variable. And it's always been surprising to me how fast you come down. It's whoop, you're on the ground, and I think having that.
This is why you have to add extra at least 10 kilo on the top of your takeoff weight. Even your glider fly next to you, right? You cannot count your glider, for example, like 5 kilo, for example. But still, if you fly in Utah, for example, on 14,000, right, on 12,000, you need a bigger reserve because
the air's thinner.
Exactly. You need bigger reserve. Let's say I will recommend it at least 10 kilo on the top of your takeoff weight. 15, 20 is the best, but it's like a recommendation. But of course, people looking for the cheaper option. Sometimes, I have 100 takeoff. I will buy the 100 reserve for the 100 kilograms on the top.
And I think what you're talking to, the pendulum effect, whatever they call that under the round, I think that, or downplaning, I think these kind of things can really impact us, right? I mean, if you happen to have that timing wrong, which you don't have any control over when you're going to hit the ground, when you're under reserve, really, that could be the difference between, a walk away and a trip to the ankle doctor.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely it will. And if you throw reserve high enough, you have time for fix it, right? To all left and right moving. If you low, you don't have time, you don't have choice. You throw. This is why I always recommend it to my student. If you, before throw reserve, just check your altitude. Sometimes people are crazy and don't worry about the altitude, but check your altitude first. If you have enough altitude, okay, you have more chance to survive and be without any issue to landing. If you don't have altitude, just throw. Don't think.
Yeah, I would postulate too that when people don't have quite a lot, and I mean, way more than one SIV training, that the fatal accidents I have seen, and I've seen quite a few, have been, I have never seen anything bad happen under canopy. I mean, in other words, under reserve. I have all the really bad stuff I have seen, not launching and landing, I'm talking about in the air, have been just not throwing. People going all the way to the deck without throwing. And I would postulate that's because they're trying to fix it and they've lost track of where they are in the sky. They're not checking the ground.
Exactly. This is why when I throw my reserve in Florida during the camp on paragliding, I had frontal on 4500, right? And my glider was had a very frontal collapse, and we had the free fall. It was task was cancelled because the strong wind, and something happened with the wind and thermalink. I was in the big sink area, and glider cannot open it. I saw my glider. I remember glider on the front of me, and he just tried to open, but not enough air. I don't know what happened, but we free fall. Wow. For maybe 400 meters. We free fall. I checked my altitude. My free fall was 12 meters per second. 10, 12.
Wow.
And okay, and just my skydiving background show up. Okay, my altitude 2, 3. Okay, I'm throwing reserve. I saw the trees. It's time to open it, and it was opening exactly how the skydiving. No delay, just boom, and my harness was broke, and because free fall opening paragliding reserve, it's kind of little bit
fail, right?
Yeah, it's fast opening for sure. And this is
because you don't have the little square thing when the sky. You don't have that little thing that kind of slowly opens.
No, it's immediately open. It's shock. It's open because this is why my harness was damaged after this opening.
Wow,
it's opened very fast, but it's remind me my skydiving. Skydiving experience. I have, of course, I have 2 opening, real cutaway in skydiving, and other testing, just it's not count, but in real one, it was exactly the same. You have to just free fall and throw your reserve,
So let me see if I can summarize real quickly where we're at so far. We got to fly with a hook knife. We got to fly with freshly packed reserves. Ideally no more than 6 months. We want to repack them. We want to fly with 2 reserves whenever possible. It's nice to have that backup. There's some interesting data on that, but we want to fly with newer reserves, with the new materials and newer designs, square, octagon rather than a round. We don't want to fly a reserve that's more than 10 years old, and we want to make sure it's packed correctly. We want to have the lines down. That's super important. We want to have the handle correctly attached to the bag. We want to have muscle memory for where the reserve is, and the harness that we're currently flying. We want to make that super redundant, that we do it all the time, and it's just we can find it with either hand in various situations, and that just comes from practice. That's one of the things I do every time I take off. I just take off once I'm away from the hill and I'm safe. I grab both toggles and I just do it.
Exactly.
Even on comp days, I just make that kind of part of my. It's almost like my pre-flight check, even though I'm in the air. Are we missing anything?
Looks like everything. Yeah, in reach, how you said, you have to have your position and insurance, right? global rescue insurance. So actually, this
Yes,
exactly. It's next town, global rescue headquarters. It's Lebanon and New Hampshire. It's next town when I flew last record. From Ascatney. It's next town, and the same.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your record here in a sec. Yeah, I was just actually on the phone with those guys. They're our title sponsor of the X Red Rocks, and so I was initially worked with them with my boat operations, and we had a guy get a really bad staph infection on the boat in Papua New Guinea after a reef cut, and they evacuated them out of there, which was a big job, getting someone out of the very remote part of Papua New Guinea, getting him home to Europe. But so I've been a fan of theirs for a long time. But like you said, this is one of these places where we should spend a little bit of money.
For sure,
given what we do, and given the odds and the chances and all those kind of things, it's not inevitable for sure, but it can certainly happen.
Yes, for sure. Insurance is one.
Tell me about your record. That sounded amazing. You just did this just happen?
Which records are you talking about?
No, you flew to the beach.
Oh, for the beach, yeah. It was done a couple weeks ago in New England. Wow. Is this the first flight from paragliders? Because they used to fly only hang gliders to the beach. Because we always fight with the breeze from the ocean, and even hang glider cannot fly through this breeze from the ocean, because wind from the ocean is so strong you cannot reach it.
You got a strong sea breeze there. Are you in New Hampshire?
Yeah, we fly from Vermont, and it's almost 100 miles from the beach, and it was I was not expected. Let's say this way.
That wasn't the plan.
No, it was not the plan. Well, I just had some feeling in my head. I just followed my intuition. It's hard to.
Were you with anybody?
Yeah, I was with my friend Max Kachura. I just trimmed his glider, and he was so happy. I mean, for the first, he was a little bit kind of scared because it's first flying trim glider. He kite only but didn't fly, and after a while he was, wow, it's so nice glider now, and we flew together in the team flight. The team flight helps a lot, especially with the blue day, not so high cloud base. We just followed the wind, and we had 2 airspace have to fly out. I flew maybe 100 meters from airspace board just to try, because wind was pushing us to the airspace twice, and we fly out of, and it just competition helped me to push my bar faster and fly faster as much as possible. Okay.
What were you flying?
I flew Climber 2 now with my white gear, and Boomer 12 on my competition gear.
The Climber is a beautiful wing.
It is.
So it was how far? It was 100 miles?
It's 153 kilometers. It's almost 100 miles.
Damn, man. I can't visualize this because I've never flown. I mean, I've been to Vermont. I used to ski race out there back a long time ago. I used to ski race out in Maine and Vermont, for the NORAMs and stuff. But for many of the listeners, flying in New England is something they've never even heard of. What describe the terrain? What are the mountains like? It's very treed, I would imagine.
It's a lot of trees. It's not so high mountain. It's we have White Mountain and Green Mountain. Green Mountain, most of the Vermont, and White Mountain in New Hampshire area. And New Hampshire has this Washington Mountain. It's called one of the 10 places in the earth with worst weather. It's the craziest weather. Seriously, if you check if you Google,
I've seen all of Eduardo's training films on that mountain. Jesus.
Exactly. For my 12 years, 13 years experience, I flew once this mountain with Eduardo, and for him too, because we cannot find the nice window for flight in this mountain.
I had an awesome sailplane pilot on the show way back when, Kevin. I think he was is Mount Washington, is it set up wave?
Yes.
They fly in the wave. Oh man, yeah. Wow, crazy.
I was trying to top landing in this area, but it was not good weather, and I land on the bottom after 70k or so. It's not much landing area around for sure. It's long fly to the trees.
Yeah.
It's sometimes you have 50 by 50 meters, and you have to be lucky. to plant on this
Yeah,
area.
wow. I've seen some of Donizetti's photos flying in Northeast, and you look at it looks like Finland. I mean, there's lakes
Exactly.
everywhere. There's water everywhere. When I did the podcast with Joanna, she showed me, the Finland, they call it the land of 1,000 lakes or something, or a million lakes, 10,000 lakes. There's a lot of lakes. There's water everywhere, and I would look at Donizetti's photos. It looks like that. It's
Exactly.
just water. You think, well, how are the thermals happening here? It's all
This is
water.
why one of the element what we flew 2 weeks ago, it's no leaves on the trees, and this is why thermic, the forest can release the thermic as well with the big difference temperature between night and day. This is like how creative the nice thermics. Like couple of weeks later, leaves already on the trees, and probably it will be less active, less punchy.
Oh,
But
okay.
still, we still have some hills and still some small mountain, but we can fly around. Like for example, my New Hampshire record, I took off from 250 feet mountain. It's like training hills.
Yeah, that's some UK stuff there, man. I mean, that's a
know.
big note for the UK. When I went over there and watched those guys, I thought, wait a minute, you're going XC from here? This is a tiny little molehill, Mount Monroe, where we have the wide open. That's 5,000 feet to the
I
valley.
know, I've been there.
You've
I
got
know
some
this area.
time to work at it.
Exactly.
250 feet. How far did you fly?
80 kilometers.
Wow,
And
that's exciting.
I was
That's
practice
fun.
my Puma Gene glider. I was take off and top landing, just practice my build my experience. And I didn't have this time valid. I don't have anything with me. I just with the short jacket, with nothing. I don't have, and I just find a
awesome.
nice thermic and just drifting. I say, okay, I can go. And I left, and I call my
Wicked.
guys, like, hey guys, can you drift my car? I don't have anything with me.
Oh, I love the unplanned stuff. That's special. That's really neat. And then you start thinking, don't you? Then you start thinking, how often could that work? And what was special about that day? Maybe not that much. You might be able to go back there and repeat that over and over again. It's what the British pilots talk about on their little hills. That once they discovered that works, it works. They can get away.
It is. You just, you have to have your plan always behind you, inside your head. You have to thinking, okay, if I took off and I found an observation, you can see the bird.
Yeah.
If you see the bird start climbing, okay, join them. This is key.
Go.
Even you're super low, this is your key. Of course, you have to feel the air. If you feel like something lifty, you have to go forward and just try to play with it. Of course, we don't have much choice. If it's a lot of trees behind, you just to be very careful and confident. If you grab this, you hold it. This is why all pilots from New England, they're very patient usually, because you play with the small stuff and you stay forever. Just stay. This is why my result on the competition not so good, because I am at the goal, but I am in the end of the list, because I am always walk to the top and push the bar after, because it's I change for.
You take your time. You get to the top.
Exactly. Bianca told me, you have to go. You have to push the bar. I said, yes, but when you tell me, just walking with it, you're scared to leave it, because in New England, if you leave the thermic so low, you're on the ground.
Yeah. No, it's a different approach. And I think that's why the British pilots are so good when it's light. They're very, very good when it's the cores aren't gathered and everything's kind of mixed up and it's just super soft and you have to drift forever and you have to be very patient. And that's not a skill that those of us that live on the west side of the continent are very good at, because it's so strong. A 2-meter climb is something you have to leave.
2 meters for us, it's it's good climbing. Let's do it.
Yeah, for you, that's a boomer.
Exactly. I'm serious. It's not a joke. It's reality.
No, I know. It's a very different kind of approach, and we need to have experience at all of them, especially when you start competing.
Welcome to New England.
You're not going to always fly via.
Welcome to New England. We can show you how you have to.
Yes, I need to come out. I love all you guys. I need to come out there, and I know it's an aspiring community. You guys are tight and doing a lot of stuff together. I'd love to get your perspective on trimming.
it's one of the important stuff for the competition glider and for recreation gliders as well, because it's safety. If you I had the glider a couple of weeks ago, even it's big glider, but one line was longer than other on 76 millimeters. Okay. It's B lines. It was different. And I saw it was made professionally, but probably a pilot chose the wrong link of the lines. It's 76 millimeters different. Say how you survive on this glider, I don't know. And inspection is also part of the safety for the gliders, because this day people just special for new pilot, they buy new gliders and most of the light gear, which they are not ready for this, for the light gear, and they damage a glider very quicker.
Yeah.
It's good to have, but not for the new pilot. And it's kind of strange for our old pilot who had some experience. He just realized the new glider is good if you have to hike with the gear and how you said the light set, right? But trimming is one of the safety issue for the old gliders. You have to check.
Yeah, I've talked about this a lot on the show, so I don't want to totally hammer it, but I mean, I think we need to be really cognizant of what we're giving up when we go with the light gear. It's very expensive and it wears out really fast. So there's a cost side of it that I think a lot of people don't really process, but there's also, these are more fragile in every way. The lines stretch easier, the fabric deteriorates faster. Your lightweight harness is not going to have the protection, even if it's EN certified. It doesn't have the passive protection that we're used to. We don't have a seat board, so we don't have the authority with the wing. So there's many things that come down to, typically we're flying with one reserve, not two. So there's lots of things that is celebrated. I'm so excited that it exists and that there's been this huge push, because it allows us to attack the sport in really wonderful ways and walk up the hill without my comp kit, which is lovely. But we are giving something up. We're not flying our Cadillacs anymore.
Yes, for sure. Light gear, and you're absolutely right. Light gear is kind of died very quicker compared with the regular gear.
Yeah, and it just also behaves differently. The light gliders are they collapse differently. They are more work.
Exactly.
I would say, for sure, across the board. They're not the same. It's not the same ENB as an ENB, and it's CNC and an ENC. They're different.
Yes,
different
I can compare. I flew Leopard and I flew Puma. The Puma is light version of Leopard. Exactly the same structure, exactly the same line, everything the same. Different fabric and different riser. And feel differently. Leopard can fly longer, especially for New England, you need a nice glide. Puma is kind of copy the same, but of course, light fabric cannot hold so much pressure and can fly a little bit differently. But the good of this for Puma, it's with the strong lift, it can softer on the control, much softer, because with the Leopard can kick you so strong because it's a hard regular fabric, right? The Puma can allow you to play a little bit softer. This is why Puma is female and Leopard is male. It's kind of different.
Right.
Different animal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think before we leave trimming, it seems like at the competition end of things too, a lot of the really top pilots are trimming their gliders every comp. It's something that they're really staying on top of. And I can say in my own experience, it really makes a difference.
It is. Line stretch, you cannot change it. Line will stretch. Depends how much pressure you put on the lines. If you spiral down, you one side extend faster than another side, for example. Or if you stow your glider, it's differently. You have to check because all lines are sensitive now, for sure. And you push the speed bar, you change your angle of attack all the time, and your A is stretching up a little bit. You cannot avoid it.
Well, let's finish here. What is your company so people know where to find you and what you're doing and what's your website? And thanks, man.
My company is AirQuest Paragliding. I ran this company last 5 years, and I do reserve repacking and inspection, which is important part of our gear. And do the glider inspection and repair, any type of repair, and plus trimming. Now, last winter, I went to Austria and I was at FSA school where I took all this training about the streaming, so many details. They explained me so nicely, and I was happy to visit Austria last winter and spend weeks there. It was great.
Where is this? I didn't know there was a school for this.
And after, it's not for this. It's like a school. They do this service, and they just give me certification of the stuff what they do, and they train me for the exactly for the trimming and small detail for the gliders. It's for testing and for inspection gliders.
Wicked. Well, Andrey, you'll send me all this stuff for the show notes. You're gonna send me some photos of how to and how not to pack and that kind of thing. We'll put all those in the show notes for when we release it. But thank you very much for your time and sharing all this great knowledge. And congratulations on your big flight. And we'll see you in Chelan.
Thank you, man. I was happy to talk about, and see you soon.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Bye.
If you find the Cloud-Based Mayhem valuable, you can support it in a lot of different ways. You can give us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or however you get your podcast. That goes a long ways and helps spread the word. You can blog about it on your own website or share it on social media. You can talk about it on the way up to launch with your pilot friends. I know a lot of interesting conversations have happened that way. And of course, you can support us financially. This show does take a lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of storage and music and all kinds of behind the scenes cost. So if you can support us financially, all we've ever asked for is $1 a show. And you can do that through a one-time donation through PayPal, or you can set up a subscription service that charges you for each show that comes out. We put a new show out every 2 weeks. So for example, if you did $1 a show and every 2 weeks, it'd be about $25 a year. So way cheaper than a magazine subscription. And it makes all of this possible. I do not want to fund this show with advertising or sponsors. We get asked about that pretty frequently, but for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I've said many times on the show, I don't want to do that. I don't like having that stuff at the front of the show. And I also want you to know that these are authentic conversations with real people, and these are just our opinions, but our opinions are not being skewed by sponsors or advertising dollars. I think that's a pretty toxic business model. So I hope you dig that. You can support us. If you go to cloudbasedmayhem.com, you can find the places to support. You can do it through patreon.com/cloudbasedmayhem. If you want a recurring subscription, you can also do that directly through the website. We've tried to make it really easy, and that will give you access to all the bonus material, little video casts that we do and extra little nuggets that we find in conversations that don't make it into the main show, but we feel like you should hear. We don't put any of that behind a paywall. If you can't afford to support us, then just let me know and I'll set you up with an account. Of course, that'll be lifetime, and hopefully you're being in a position someday to be able to support us. But you'll find all that on the website. All of you who have supported us or even joined our newsletter or bought Cloud-Based Mayhem merchandise, t-shirts or hats or anything, you should be all set up. You should have an account and you should be able to access all that bonus material now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.